The United Nations General Assembly, in its resolution 66127, designated June 15 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. It's a day set aside for global focus on opposing elder abuse and suffering inflicted on older generations. Now, according to the UN, elder abuse is one of the least investigated types of violence in national surveys. Here in Ghana, abuse of elderly persons is said to be on the rise despite the existence of a national aging policy approved by government 7 years ago. Local NGO in Kumasi, Guardians of Grey Masters Foundation, suggests the elderly do not suffer only financial abuse but physical, spiritual and emotional torture each passing day. Executive Director Abigail Appiah tells Joy News majority of such cases go unreported. Ohemin Teria has more.
The World Health Organization estimates the population of people above 60 years will exceed that of younger persons by 2050. Neglect, violence and exploitation are among major issues facing senior citizens around the world. They, however, remain the least reported and investigated forms of violence in developing countries like Ghana. Guardians of Grey Masters wants government to put in place more effective measures to protect the aged.
About 90% of these people live in extreme poverty. No money to access health insurance, pay a caregiver, eat or take care of themselves whilst they are ill. They face stigmatization and neglect. Unfriendly infrastructures force them to crawl on stairs with both hands and feet, an affront to their dignity.
Government approved in 2010 a national policy on aging that had to run to the World Health Organization 2 years later to seek help for implementation. A multi-stakeholder team was then set up to draw concrete recommendations for addressing priority areas. These recommendations cover community sensitization and broadening national health insurance scheme. It also makes hearing devices and eyeglasses available to the aged. They were later absorbed into Ghana's 3-year medium-term health strategy, which started in 2014.
The battle of elder abuse should be a concern to every individual, because as the saying goes, the young shall grow, both rich and poor. Fighting elder abuse is fighting for the comfort of our future in our old age. The crusade of ensuring the government put the right policies and laws to protect the old age should be upheld by all. The Guardians of the Grey Masters Foundation wants the government to expedite action on the passage of the National Aged Bill to protect and promote the rights of the older persons, as well as to establish the National Council on Aging to coordinate the implementation of National Aging Policy, approved by Cabinet in 2010.
Kumasi for Joy News, Ohemin Teria reporting.
Well, we've witnessed abuse of elderly persons, particularly in the northern part of the country, where women are usually accused of witchcraft. A typical case in point is the recent lynching of a 67-year-old woman in the Upper East region, believed to be a witch by the people there. But how can we better understand and cater for the elderly devoid of any form of abuse? I've got Mercy Makafui out in the studio with me. She is the CEO of Mercy Mission, a nursing care home for the aged. Great to have you here on Joy News, Mercy. It's really good to have you here. Let's talk about taking care of the elderly here in this country. Do you think that we have an understanding of taking care of older people and even understanding how they behave?
I don't think we understand taking care of them, because we assume that once upon a time they were able to do things for themselves, and so it should continue. But we don't understand that they get weaker as they age, and so they need help to do the usual things that they used to do. And so we leave them on their own to suffer unduly. Some are kept in big houses. Nobody is there to take care of them. the families go to work. Of course, if you do not work, you cannot eat or even feed him or her. And things that should not happen to them in their absence happen to them, assuming the individual soils himself in the afternoon or mid-morning. She will be in that situation till you return home about 7 or 6:30 p.m. And she will have to endure all the unpleasant smell on her, and sometimes they even fall. We leave the homes, leaving food on the table. Mama, you're hungry, your lunch is here. And in the process of accessing that food, they may even trip and fall. And will be in that position till you come back. Things that should not happen to them, happen to them.
You have a home where you care for the aged. What are some of the types of abuses you've come across in your work?
Some of the abuses we've come across is mostly financial abuses, because when the individuals age, the families think that they have lived their life, and so whatever assets they have should be left for them to enjoy. And so when you live on, you are wasting time for somebody to start enjoying. So they tend to maltreat them. Some go withdrawing their monies from their accounts without their consent. Some promise them lifelong care in exchange for their assets and will not fulfill such promises. And they live in misery after all that.
Interesting, and I must say that this year's theme is Understand and End Financial Abuse of Older People, a human rights issue. And as Mrs. Attoh has mentioned here, that's a big problem. I think that a lot of people don't pay attention. Sometimes we think abuse is neglect, maybe hitting or lynching. But the issue of even forging their signatures, like you mentioned, people go and withdraw their monies without their consent because these people maybe cannot talk, have a stroke, or otherwise. But you know, it's a fact. We know, I have lived with an older person before, that sometimes they have certain traits and conditions that are quite difficult for the younger generation to appreciate. And like you mentioned, why are you behaving like that? You're behaving like a child. Why are you crying over this? Why should you cry over this? There's nothing happening. You know, my grandmother, for example, she's passed on. I mean, there was a time where she assumed that somebody was dead in the family and was going around spreading the news. And, well, the person wasn't dead anyway, but that's how her mind was processing information. She said she saw a lot of people coming to the house, so somebody must be dead.
Yeah.
How can we understand, especially the younger generation, how can we understand older people so we don't end up abusing them, you know, because we think we cannot cope with their attitudes or even their conditions, like some of them cannot even use the bathroom on their own?
Yeah. Understanding them is difficult. And with the youth, they do not have that time to waste on somebody who has become very slow to their estimation. And so they think that they are a nuisance to them. But we need to have some passion for them. Passion, patience. And so when you have patience for them, whatever they do, you will know that she isn't what she used to be. And so I need to have more patience for him or her. And they sometimes even get forgetful. And so an elder person can report to a visitor that the whole day I have not eaten. And the youth will not understand that. It's like you are so evil that you are peddling untruth about me.
Yeah.
But he's not brought himself down to understand that it's age that has made her to caught up with her to behave as such. And so I think we need to educate ourselves a little more, because we will also get there one day anyway. Anybody who doesn't want to age simply wants to die early. And so if we want to age, we should understand the aged and make sure we take care of them the way we should.
So it's a very normal thing, like you've mentioned, for an older person to accuse you of not feeding them, even if you fed them.
Oh yes, it's very, very real.
But why do they do that?
Number one is forgetfulness.
Okay.
And number two, it's attention seeking.
Okay.
they want you to be with them 24/7, which is not possible anyway. You might have fed her and say, okay, I'm going to get something and back. But she will not understand. She wants you to be with her because at that stage, they want to chat every minute. So she wants you to be with her so that everything that she wants to mention will mention it to you. And so if you don't have that time, she will think that you are not doing your best. And so she will try to incite somebody
against you. Interesting perspectives. Please understand them. All they need is your attention, just like a little child. But we know that there was a bill in Parliament on the aged. My colleague, parliamentary correspondent Joseph Opoku-Gakpo is on the line to tell us what's happening with that particular one. Hello, Joseph.
Good morning, Benny.
Good morning to you. What can you tell us about this bill that was placed before Parliament?
Okay, so I've checked with some members of the Gender and Children Committee in Parliament. They indicate to me that no such aged bill actually came to the House for discussion or approval or anything like that.
Okay.
They tell me that they had consultations with the Ministry of Gender and Children and Social Protection under Nana Oyelisa, the former minister. And there were occasions when some of the members were invited to workshops, and the indication was that government had given a directive which had actually come from the Gender Ministry to officials of the Attorney General's Ministry to draft that aged bill.
Okay, so the bill has not been drafted at all?
No, work on it was never completed and brought to the floor of Parliament for approval. No.
Okay, all right. But seeing as today is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, is there any discussion about this particular draft in Parliament?
We would know more sometime around 12 o'clock when the House begins to think as to what the plans are for this particular day. But again, just briefly on that, we've also been checking the kind of bills that would come to the House for approval between now and August, when the second meeting of the first session would come to an end. And again, I can tell you again that the aged bill is actually not on the agenda, at least between now and August this year.
Interesting. Thank you very much for the updates from Parliament. Well, you heard him. He said the aged bill, they started the process. Well, we don't have it before Parliament. And he's seen the bills that are likely to be addressed on the floor for the first session, and it doesn't include this. Do you think as a society we are paying attention to?
We are not paying attention to the aged as a society, because the political parties come with manifestos. Almost every manifesto mentions something about the elderly or the aged, but none of them, or very few of them, get implemented. And so we keep giving lip service to all these things that we should not be doing, because even in our constitution, under chapter 6, directive principles of state policy, article 37 2b, the government is supposed to give the protection and promotion of all other basic human rights and freedoms, including rights of the disabled and the aged, children and other vulnerable groups in development processes. But it looks like all these laws or whatever, it gets stuck in the books. They never get implemented. And we don't seem to be having any positive attitude towards the aged. You know, in all our structures, we do not make any provision for the elderly. Look at our footbridges. Is an elder person supposed to climb up, walk across the street and descend? So clearly, we don't have any positive attitude towards the aged. We've left them in the background, and it's like they have finished living their life. Which is not so, because they have given their best to society. Society should not be seen giving back what they give to us.
Interesting, but I must mention that the previous government started an initiative to give preference to elderly persons on MMT buses. But briefly before you go, give us some tips. You have Mercy Mission, you take care of old people. How many people do you have, by the way?
We have 8 people at the moment, but our numbers go up and go down because death takes toll on us every now and then.
And so when they're grouped together like that, what's the benefit really for older people when they meet together?
They chat. They chat. Like in our place, in the mornings when we finish bathing them, we bring them to the compound where we take breakfast. And when another one comes to join the other, you see that he say, good morning. Good morning. Then they start chatting, sometimes about what you cannot tell.
Okay.
But they seem to be interacting with each other, which looks very pleasant if you view from afar. So generally, we should have interaction, and we should make provisions for them. Let's assume that a 75-year-old man is a football fan and wants to go to the stadium every now and then. There should be some provision for free ticket or something, because that is where his pleasure is. Somebody wants to go to the theater to go and watch one of Uncle Lebo's hilarious plays. There should be some free ticket for that individual, because that is where his or her pleasure is.
Yes. Thank you very much for the tips. We have to end the conversation here. Mercy McCaffrey Atto is the CEO of Mercy Mission. She takes care of the aged, and she's just been giving us some tips as the world marks the day to create awareness on abuse of elderly persons. We really appreciate your company here. Well, we'll take a quick break now. It's time for business. Emmanuel Abuaje Riafi is standing by.